So, welcome to our next episode of Leading Talks. As always, I have a fantastic guest joining us today, Dr. Lami. Dr. Lami has a PhD in clinical psychology, and she works internationally with family businesses, helping the leaders in those family businesses with all sorts of things, including succession planning. She's just released a book. She's just authored a book, which I'm really excited to know more about. And I hope she'll share some information on that with us. Now, I think I've said quite enough, so I'm going to keep quiet. I'm going to say hello, Dr. Lami, and welcome to Leading Talks. Thank you for taking the time.
Hello, Ashim. It's so nice to see you.
It's great to see you. I was thinking today, my goodness, we've known each other, what, 5-6 years now?
Yes. Do you remember the first time we met?
First time we met, we were doing this program on family businesses. And I thought,
yes, I remember.
We've been...
Time flies.
It does, my goodness. I still feel as though I'm in my 20s, but it may surprise you to hear I'm not.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
So where do we start?
Well, I know you've been doing lots and lots of stuff, right? In the last few years, very interesting stuff, and really raising the bar in many areas where you specialize, and I'm dying to get into all of those things. But let's start with some basics. Over the years, you've had lots of clients around the world. Psychologically speaking, in terms of the way they think, in terms of the way they behave, and so on, are there some characteristics that you find good leaders, and how you define good is up to you, are there some characteristics that you find within good leaders that are common amongst all of the people that you've worked with?
So to answer your question, I think it's important to first start with defining what a leader is. So a leader is someone who has the ability to consistently influence the direction and meaning for other people over time, which means someone who has the ability to shape how we think, what meaning we give to things consistently over time. Now, when we see a leader, sometimes we just notice leaders and we just follow them. And why is that? So before I go into it and give you qualities that I've seen over time of a good leader, I want to distinguish, because it's important. The world has moved from traditional, I should say, old type of leadership into a more modern type of leadership. And I think in the 80s, Daniel Goleman wrote the book Emotional Intelligence, and he talked about it a lot. And I think it moved even further away from that. And I want to explain. So basically, if I want to define what is a good leader, I look at two aspects: the psychological leadership and the functional leadership. So functional leadership is what we all know is the one that is interested in the doing, in the bottom line, in the decision making, in the function of the business to drive results and profit.
Right. So basically doing stuff that generates the outcomes that the business requires, the owners of the business require. So it's technical, if I can put it like that. Is that right?
It's more technical. It's more result orientated in the sense that we're here for profit, we're here for growth, we are here for actions. So that's what's important, because without it, we can't grow and expand and be profitable. And when we are profitable, everyone benefits. The employees and the shareholders, again, depending upon how the company is structured. So that's the traditional way of looking at it.
Right. So I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but
Sure.
there is something I want to clarify. That sounds to me the kind as though it's a kind of leadership that's connected to the role or the position that that person has in the organization, and those responsibilities that you've just laid out come with that position. So if you're the CEO of a business, that's your job, right? To make sure the business achieves its strategic goals and so on. Is that a reasonable connection to make?
Yes, but what you've just brought up actually reminds me of another point. That's the role of a CEO, of the founder or the entrepreneur. But you're right. Like if we look at large organizations, so if you're the president, not the president, the executive manager of the IT team, so your job is to lead in terms of developing products, making sure IT runs well, so you're not interested in profit. So that's a good distinction. But so when I talk about leadership, I talk about it more with less emphasis, the traditional way, with less emphasis on the psychological aspects of leadership. Okay.
Understood.
So I hope it's clear now.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks.
So, and there is a reason why making this distinction. I'll bring it together once I explain psychological leadership. So psychological leadership is what actually people are discovering that is needed and necessary for leaders to be successful, as well as having that traditional sense of leadership, having also the psychological aspect, which are emotional intelligence, helping individuals shape their identity within the organization or outside of the organization, interesting about who we are, how do we make decisions, what meaning do we give to the work that we do. Leaders who create emotional and relational safety, leaders who help make meaning of what the experience that people have. Now, now I'm coming to the question that you've asked me, the specific qualities that I've observed. The best leaders are the ones who have both aspects in their leadership. So, which means that they are collaborative, they empower their employees or the people they work with, they listen, they see themselves as equal, they call themselves nowadays the servant leader. They make decisions based on data that the team provides, less on gut feeling and intuition. They are not trying to dominate. They're not trying to show that they're strong, although they need to show certain strength, which is different from the old way of leading. There is one more thing. When I speak with CEOs, one of the things they keep emphasizing is how important it is to find leaders who don't only have the technical skills, but who also have that emotional intelligence, human intelligence, so being able to interact with different types of people, who have critical thinking, who have cognitive abilities. So they're not just looking at the skills, the pure skills you have, they're looking for the human aspects that the person has.
Understood. Sorry, it's just while you were talking, so many things came to mind. And it's really fascinating because, I was thinking over the years, ever since I went into the job market, someone, just because they had a title, someone, was a leader, right? But then I found that the attitude of followers changed, because you can't be a leader unless you have followers. And the followers started to become more demanding, have more expectations of their leader, in the sense that, followers used to think, well, actually, I've got something to offer here, right, to this organization. I've got something to offer in this conversation, and I'd like to be able to engage with my leader and with others so that I can share and add value to that conversation. And in order for the follower to feel comfortable with that, the leader has to be open to that idea. So I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is where the emotional intelligence and the relationship building comes in, where you have a kind of an engagement between the leader and members of the team. Is that right?
So, yes, you're touching upon an important point, which actually, from a psychological perspective, leaders today cannot just control, give orders and expect people to follow. It's not, the model is not working. In some organization, maybe it does, but for especially millennials and Z generation, it doesn't work. You have to be open and engaging. And if you haven't developed that quality, that you know how to build relationship with your employees, that if you don't see them as equal, not maybe equal in the decision making process, but equal in the sense that you're all working together as a team to create something. If you don't encourage ideas, insights, if you're not open to hear what they have to say, they will not follow you. Which actually, I'm jumping ahead, but there is there are three important key psychological principles that I want to cover, and you have just prompted me to do so, because it's going to lead us, what you've just opened up is connecting to what I'm about to say. So a leader, from a psychological perspective, has to embody three principles. And one of them is the understanding that authority is giving to the leader because of consistency and internal coherence. What do I mean by that? People feel who is in front of them, and they don't need to be forced to see you as the authority. If you are internally coherent with your values, your words, and your actions, and you're consistent over time, automatically it creates emotional safety, and emotional safety breeds trust. So they'll trust you, and they'll follow you. And so if you are, like what you're saying, have the right values, are able to communicate, see them as equal, and don't adopt the top-down management style like McKinsey's old philosophy, people will follow you. Look, if you think of someone who inspires you, that's a leader, that no matter what, you are willing to accept or to go along with what they say. Think of that. What do they embody? What is it that they project out to you that you are willing to follow? I can see it in politics when there are leaders that are competing to become presidents of the United States. Sometimes it's not even, we don't analyze it properly. There is something that we see in them that we are drawn to and let us make decisions to follow their lead. And when we don't have that consistency, for example, in them, it's confusing, and then we choose not to follow them.
It's about trust, really.
Yes.
And trust comes from consistency and coherence.
Yeah, internal coherence with your values. If you're going to say one thing and behave the opposite, nobody's going to trust you. And
Right.
and there are leaders like that.
Well, plenty.
Many, and that's why I think many people have given up. I don't think that we've had a real leader for many, many years now. So that's one psychological principle. The other one is emotional regulation, we call it in psychology. What is emotional regulation? Is when you do not let your feelings and emotions show up, control you, and you don't act based on that. You're able to control yourself internally, show a calm exterior, and that by itself minimize fear, and people feel safe and they trust you.
Right.
So when there is crisis or chaos, if you think about it, whom do we listen to. Like, let's say it's not about an organization, like there is a crisis, and in the crowd, someone takes control, shows a calm exterior and tell people what to do. Automatically we follow them because they regulate their emotions. They don't let anything sabotage what needs to be done. So they know
don't
that
panic or
no panic, no anxiety.
Yeah. Right.
So that's
sorry, go on.
No, please.
I was listening, funny enough, I don't know if you've heard of this guy. His name is John Kiriakou, and he is he's a former CIA agent officer, and he was talking about what happened when 9/11, when 9/11 occurred, and he was in New York at the time. That's where he was based, and he talks about everyone went into this huge room, a kind of emergency room, and they couldn't believe what they were watching on the screens, and then eventually, he said somebody screamed out, "Will somebody lead here, please?" And I thought, I think that's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
They're looking for someone to take control and say, "Okay, we can do something here. You do this, you help me with whatever."
Absolutely.
You can just imagine that situation. There's an extreme situation, right?
But it happens even in businesses when there are deadlines and projects to complete, and all of a sudden, or there is a technological development that needs to be launched and it's not ready, and it creates chaos. And oftentimes the leaders or the executives or whoever is the manager don't control their emotions. And
absolutely, because they panic, they're stressed, right? But also what I was thinking was, with the overlap with family life. So if something is happening at home, some people kind of bring that into the workplace, and they may not explicitly say, I'm having a problem with whatever, my husband, wife, child, whatever it is, but it comes out, and the people who are following this leader are confused, right? So where's the internal coherence, and where's the kind of
regulating the
regulation?
Yes,
it's really so. This sounds. Sorry, let me. You finish your
I finish
point.
my third point, and then we can. Because I also want to describe. I think it's important to distinguish later or at some point between give examples of psychological leaders and functional leaders, and the difference between an entrepreneurial leader and an executive leader. But that we can, I'm saying it, we can come back to it later. So the third point of the psychological principle is clarity reduces power struggles. Quite often, leaders are not clear about their expectations. They don't have healthy authority boundaries. And there isn't enough clarity about the roles and the expectations of an employee. And when people don't have that, when people don't have that, that can lead into lack of clarity, fear, anxiety, manipulation, like all kinds of politics, internal politics, creates uncertainty and starts creating power struggles, because if I don't know what's expected of me, therefore I'm not going to deliver. Or you didn't tell me that this is what's required, and now you're telling me, well, I've already committed to X, Y, and Z. I can't do that. And then there is passive aggressive behaviors and power struggles, and that affect the production and effectiveness and creates all kinds of issues. However, when there is clarity and leaders communicate well, explain what is it that they expect within reason, set proper boundaries, it promotes understanding, it promotes collaboration, it promotes clarity and certainty, and people thrive in this type of environment. And I think that's also something that's important to recognize.
I mean, absolutely. And here's a question that I've always had, because I've had people who have not been very good at this. And I think, where is the problem? Is the problem that they themselves don't have clarity about what they want? Or is the problem that they have clarity, but they're not very good at communicating it to people?
It can be both. Which leads me to another point, and it's about, I think that the key for everything in life is self-awareness and your personal evolution. Okay, we are not, each of us has our strengths and weaknesses. And part of becoming self-aware is to know, okay, I am not good at communicating, or I'm not good at understanding things and have clarity about it. So either I find a coach to help me work through that, or I admit my weakness and elicit someone in my team that can deliver that for me. So human beings are very different and can be complex at times. And I think part of the challenge is really to know yourself. Now, when you're an entrepreneur or a founder or an executive manager, most people don't go out to get to know themselves and work on their self-awareness. We, go into life wanting to make a living, wanting to find our purpose maybe, or just are thrown into life without any plan. And life brings all kinds of challenges and situations to us, which causes us to kind of stop and think and say, okay, what is going on here? What do I need to develop in order to succeed with this challenge? And I think leaders need to know that. I always say that I wish in schools and universities they would dedicate a semester or more for personal growth and development only. That's
that makes perfect sense to me. I mean, and I must say, when I kind of talk to people about leadership coaching, which is what I do, leadership training and so on, what I often find is that leaders have a problem with admitting to themselves or to others that they have some gaps, right? That there is something that needs to be improved. And unless they start to acknowledge that, they can't even start to begin to improve it, right? So they never improve their leadership. So,
absolutely.
When I'm sure you've had a similar experience. What would you say to somebody like that who says, well, no, I'm okay, okay, I may not be brilliant, but I'm good enough. I've got 30 years experience. I know what I'm talking about. What do you talk about self-awareness? I don't need that. What would you say to someone like that?
It's not a simple question, it's not a simple question to answer, because in order to be able to steer them in the right direction, to look into working on their self-awareness, there should be an opening. So usually you propose the subject or the topic when there is a crisis or a challenge that they come to you with. And then you said to them, look, helping you resolve it and specifically to this challenge will not prevent will not prevent you from experiencing more challenges, because there is a pattern here that you need to become aware of and break. So you can just have a band-aid on the situation, and I can give you techniques that can help you get out of these particular situations, but you're at risk for it coming back again, and I almost guarantee it. When presented like that, it helps them to start thinking about it in a different way, because part of their identity is geared towards success and not to fail. So if you explain to them why they are prone to fail again, they can start listening. It's all about using the right concepts to grab their attention, to see that yes, they may manage right now, but that doesn't stop them from having other issues that they need to develop awareness for.
Right.
There is another point here. Let's not forget that people who are in successful positions, they are there because they have a lot of confidence. They believe in themselves. And one of the hardest things to do is to admit fault. You don't want to show weakness. I have clients that they were terrible leaders. Okay, it was their own company. They were the founders. They grew it successfully, did well, or still do, but were poor communicators, couldn't regulate emotions, and always bumped into conflicts with others. And even and when they came to me, it took us a year or two before we were able to get to the point that they were willing to let me in and admit weakness. So
because the barriers were so high.
Yes, the defense mechanism is very high.
Yeah.
It's about identity change. We have certain identities that controls us without our knowledge. And to collapse them requires a lot of courage, and to rebuild them, or even not to collapse them, even to shape them differently. It's not something that comes to us naturally. We resist it.
And also, leadership is not something, you wake up on Monday morning and suddenly you're a leader. It's a journey, right? So you constantly got to evolve and in order to evolve effectively, you have to have an open mind and say, hey, look, I'm not perfect, and what can I do, what can I do to fill the gaps? Or do I employ somebody who can, or do I improve myself? Ask yourself these questions. But as you say, so many people, because they are in those senior roles, they don't want to appear weak, and they don't want to appear as though they don't know what they're doing, and that's so dangerous.
I know, but also imagine that they've gotten to the point that they've gotten with what they know.
Right.
And sometimes, and then life happens. And I would like to give an example about a family business. Please. So the father created a successful business who's worth hundreds of millions. And his children were in the business. Now, the father has an old style of leadership, like I've described before. But the children are different. They're in their 30s. And when they joined the business and took leadership roles, executive roles, they started to clash. Conflicts, disagreements, fights. Because the father was not willing to see that he needs to be flexible. And they were not willing to see that with all their new ideas, there is something solid about what the father is bringing, that they just need to find a way maybe to soften it, take it, and use it for the business. So it took a lot of time, but one of the challenges we faced is that sometimes people say, Dr. Lami, I'm with you, I'll do whatever you say, I'll go along with it. But it's just lip service, maybe well-intended, but they are not able to really internalize things and make the necessary change. And sometimes because of that, you're unable to completely resolve the situations. You're able to improve it 10, 20%, but not completely resolve it. So there is also the genuine ability of someone to take on these insights, ideas, thoughts, psychologically, and implement them in their daily life and internalize them, which, if I may, leads me to the book that I've written.
Yes, please. But before you talk about the book, sorry, Dr. Lami, before you talk about the book, there's just one connected to the example that you've just given, right? So I was just thinking, would this family And with all this argument and conflict going on amongst the successors, what are the risks? What happens to the business? In other words, what are the hard results of not having that kind of relationship where leaders and followers can actually work together, and you start having the conflict? What do you expect to see in businesses like that over time?
It varies. It depends upon whether the father steps away and allow the young generation to take over, and then if they are skillful enough and if they get the right mentors or coaches or people to help them, they keep the business and grow it further. So that's a possibility. Sometimes the children leave and then the father stays with whatever is there, and if he is wise enough to bring on good executives that help him manage, or he steps away and give it to an external executive, then that can save the business. And sometimes he stays in the business and manages it and runs it how he's used to or she's used to, and then either it stays the way it is or starts shrinking. Sometimes they lose it, and sometimes it just keeps on going in a different format, like a smaller format, maybe less profit. So there are different scenarios in
right. So it's not sustainable to have this conflict continuously, because it does have hard results and big decisions need to be made.
Yes, and it also impacts, as a leader, your way of being impacts employees. If they see a family that disagrees and in constant conflict and disagreements, it's also difficult for them, because whom should we listen to?
Right.
And therefore it leads to turnover, a higher turnover, because most people today don't want to work in this environment. So it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, it is. And turnover is expensive for the business as well. So that's going to hit your bottom line, right?
Yes.
When people leave for all sorts of reasons. Anyway, you're going to talk about your book before I interrupt you.
Yes. And the reason I brought the book, it's not just to talk about the book, it's because it's actually linked to the example I've given about the people, the leaders who need to learn certain principles and concepts to internalize, and which will help them evolve and develop, as we've talked, and therefore will shift develop their psychological leadership. So the conflicts and the disagreements and the lack of communication will be minimized. So the book talks about principles like that, and it teaches people how to let go of emotions and feelings that control them, how to regulate them, how to look at money and your relationship with money and leadership in a business from a different perspective. It teaches you proper listening, how to really listen, not just to others, but to yourself, which is the most important form of listening, from which everything starts. It talks about surrendering not in the military sense, but sometimes surrendering the ego and being right in order to achieve something greater. So that's the reason I've brought up the book, because it's based on 5 years of research and data analysis with significant results, that those key principles that the book describes actually have proven over time, and they're actually the principles and concepts that once people internalize and apply will really help them on their growth journey. This is the first book of a trilogy. The book came up with 21 principles. No, not the book, sorry, the research came up with 21 principles, or I call it core habits, that are required to achieve what we're talking about. So wow. That's the reason I brought it up.
Well, I'm very happy that you did. What's the name of this book? Your book?
This is still to be determined.
Okay,
because it's just now it's with the publisher, and we are kind of finalizing that step.
Right. Well, as soon as we know it, please let us know. We'll put it under this video.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's our conversations, Leading Talks conversations, in general are really the aim behind them is for leaders who are either already leaders or who are potential leaders or on the verge of leadership, who want to step up, if you like. So if they're already leaders, they have this open mind, they have this self-awareness and willingness to learn. And so your experience and expertise helps them start to think of these things. And it's the same with leaders that are just going into leadership perhaps for the first time, and they're nervous. What is a leader supposed to be like? What is it supposed to do? And how do I deal with my team? And how do I get them to listen to me? And how do I, what happens if I'm not sure of something? All these questions, we've all been there, right? So let's imagine we're talking about a leader who's I don't know, middle manager at the moment, and he or she wants to move up. Yes, they want to get to the C-suite, if you like. So what kinds of things would you say that they need to be aware of and start to work on to prepare for that new role?
I can't cover everything, so I'll just think of like a couple of things, because it's a lot. It depends upon whether you are anxious because you've never done it and you're stepping up. Then what I would say is monitor yourself and pay close attention to when the anxiety comes up and identify the source of it. So is it because you don't have clarity about what you want, how to go about something like that? And if that's the case, identify key people in your team that you can open up to. Don't say I have anxiety, but say I am trying to get more clarity about this. There are different ways to resolve the issue. Let's talk about possibilities. So right. Open up. Don't think that you have to have all the answers to things that you don't know. I think that can help a lot. Try not to show weakness in the sense that keep boundaries, but healthy boundaries, not from a place of wanting to domineer, because sometimes when we don't know something, we revert into control and we tend to dominate. Don't do that, because that's not going to enroll people to listen to you. It's okay to show some vulnerability, like I've said, to key people, but eventually you have to make them understand that you are the authority. So you listen to them, you gather information, you assess what has been told, and then you take time to think, and then you come up and you give the answer. So, right. Based on everything we are saying, those are the things I can think of.
Yeah, it's great advice actually, because I think that's a fundamental question that someone in the positions I just described would have for themselves. What happens if I don't know what to do? Right? It's a new job and I've never done this. I've never led people. Oh my God, will I be able to cope? Right? So, and now you said, well, actually, it's okay. Calm down. Take a few breaths and talk to people. Talk to experienced people. Talk to members in your team that you can trust, and listen to ideas whilst maintaining your position as the leader. And I think that is so powerful, and hopefully takes off some of the stress that many people have when they move into senior leadership roles.
I want to say one more thing. For example, you can sometimes say to the people that you have identified that you can trust, and even though they're new, how do you know you can trust them? You haven't worked with them for long. There is a gut feeling that sometimes we have if we trust it. So you can say something like, I know we need clarity about this, or we need to make a decision. I'm not sure what's the right way here. I don't have the answers. I don't have all the answers. Why don't we brainstorm together? It's okay not to have all the answers.
Right.
People respect more people who admit that they don't, and they can come back to them with answers, than when you try to make up things.
Yeah, because people can see through that, can't they? They can see that you're not really sure, and you're blustering, you're being aggressive. You talked about that as well, because you don't want people to question you, and if you're aggressive, you're kind of building this barrier between you and your team, which is very unhealthy. Right?
Very long past the time that we accept that model.
Yeah,
The world is changing. I spoke to a senior manager, executive manager, who runs the whole. They've got offices around the world, and he's responsible for the whole of America, North America, South America, and now he's gotten a new region. And he was explaining to me that it's you can't continue with the old way. People want to feel listened to, empowered, equal, that their word matters, that the leader is interested in what they have to say. So he says that this is crucial, and that's what he applies in his teams across the world, and it's successful.
Well, I think
Ashim,
right.
Sorry, just one more thing.
Yeah, go on.
It's very important to clarify this point. With all of this, the things that he's doing, he's still the leader. He's still the authority, and he has strong boundaries. Okay, so he's kind and welcoming, but everybody knows that he's the, and that's very important thing to maintain. You can't have blurred boundaries. Oh, we're friends. No, you're not. So
right. Yeah.
And that's a fine line to attain.
Yeah. And I think that comes a lot with experience, but you're absolutely right. You do need to draw the boundaries, and so people know you're the leader. And at the end of the day, the buck stops with you, right? As a leader, you make the final decision, and you're responsible for that final decision. So that's the way it should be. But yeah, absolutely, I couldn't agree more. So can you just, as we're kind of coming up on, my goodness, time's flown by. But as we're coming up to the end of this little chat, and I'm sure we'll have lots of others, remind people very briefly the three main principles that they can take away today and start to implement tomorrow, hopefully.
So sorry, I'm writing something I need to also bring up. There are three things that I want people to take away from this conversation for leaders. The first thing is that emotional regulation before influence. So you've got to be aware of your emotions, regulate them before you can influence your team, your employees, because when you are not able to do so, your influence diminishes. The second thing is consistent internal coherence leads to authority. You don't need to exert authority. Once you are aligned with your words, your values, and your actions, and people see that you're consistent over time, they feel safe, and they will automatically trust you, and your authority will be established because they will be willing to follow you without you having to do anything to force that.
Right.
The other thing is that clarity reduces power struggles. So when employees don't have clarity about their roles, what's expected of them, boundaries, it creates all kinds of political agendas, passive aggressiveness, manipulation, power struggles. People don't want to, it's harder to lead them. However, if you do create clarity and communicate all of these expectations, roles, and have a clear boundaries, automatically it will lead to understanding, to collaboration, to participation, to clarity, and all of that, which will enhance effectiveness.
Right. Brilliant. So if you come across, if you're talking to a client or a prospective client, and you identify that these are the challenges, or one or more of these are the challenges that client is facing, what would you kind of recommend to them? Obviously, you'd say, let's have a conversation, and let's, I can help you with this. But what would that process look like?
It's hard to answer this question because the process is long, and it's involving lots of questioning and identifying why a person in a certain situation feels a certain way and the emotions take over. Why is he unable to regulate them? And therefore, sometimes oftentimes it goes back to their childhood or events that happened to them, and you need to undo that so the emotions don't show up like that.
Right.
So if they don't involve with someone like me, the only thing they can do is, the first step is to identify that the situation is linked to this type of emotion, and ask yourself why. What is it that I'm afraid of? What is it that the worst outcome I'm afraid of and trying to avoid happening? That's all you can do right now. That's the first step. If you don't identify consistency, you start look into what is it that caused the person not to be aligned. There is no alignment, and you point out to them, and then you start looking into when did the misalignment start? When has it started in the person's life? So you can go back there and do whatever you need to do in order to remove that, for the person to feel safe to create this alignment.
Right.
Clarity comes from, a lot of people have ideas, and usually most people I see have a high level of ADHD and ADD, and they don't even know that they have the clarity for themselves in their mind, but they don't know that they're not clear with their communication, the delivery. So you really work with them on understanding that and showing them where the gaps are and where the disconnect is, and then you help them to develop the ability to communicate clearly. And that's the process. So those
are
very
powerful process. I was absolutely fascinated listening to you. I could just imagine it, visualize it. I mean, and that's why I think this might be a good time to share with our audience that the two of us are starting a podcast together.
Yes.
On leadership, and you're going to be saying these amazing things that you just have, and I'm going to be taking the leadership coaching perspective with our guests, and I'm so excited about working with you and working together with our guests and exploring all kinds of exciting new areas. I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Me too. I'm glad you brought it up, because it would be good for the audience to have something to look forward to, hopefully.
Absolutely. We'll keep everyone informed as it takes shape, where, the conversations have started, the planning has begun, and we're taking our first steps. So it will happen, and the sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned.
It will happen this year, we'll launch it.
It will. Dr. Lami, that was amazing. I could talk to you for hours. I mean, thank you so much. Anyone who wants to get in touch with Dr. Lami, the website is on the screen there, so drlami.com. And we will be putting in details of Dr. Lami's book underneath this recording. And really happy that we finally managed to organize this. Thank you so much again.
It's always good speaking. Always good speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.